The Canterbury Tales is a 14th century collection of interrelated short stories, mostly in verse, by the English author Geoffrey Chaucer. Chaucer was born in London in 1343, the son of a wine merchant with a royal appointment. As a young man, he became page to the Countess of Ulster, the wife of the reigning king's second son. Afterwards, he was at different times a diplomat, a member of parliament, and a civil servant. He wrote in his spare time, possibly partly for the entertainment of the court. He died in 1400 at the age of 57. He's commonly regarded as the father of English poetry, although that's unfair to several of his contemporaries who also wrote major works of English poetry. William Langland, for example, or the unknown author of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. All of them wrote in what's now called Middle English, which differs widely from modern English, although it's still decipherable. Modern English, of course, hadn't yet been invented. What distinguishes the Canterbury Tales from other English poems of its day is its modernity. Although it undeniably depicts the medieval world, it's about a group of pilgrims going to Canterbury in April to visit the tomb of St. Thomas Becket. There's a diversity of viewpoint with no real reverence for absolute truths. There are 30 pilgrims in all from every social class, and they all have their own perspectives and voices. Together, they're a representative slice of the emerging English nation. I say emerging. Chaucer's book was written entirely within the period defined by the Hundred Years' War, which many historians think finally forged Britain and France as separate nations. Chaucer himself was captured during that war, but quickly ransomed. In any case, the gradual emergence of England as a distinct political entity probably favoured the Canterbury Tales over its more conservative internationalist rivals. It was from the start a book for a new age, however much it may have been about the old. The biggest influence on the Canterbury Tales was probably Giovanni Boccaccio's 1353 The Decameron, a collection of fictional short stories told by a group of people sheltering from the plague in a house outside Florence. But Boccaccio's book possesses a single philosophical outlook, the dominance of fortune, which Chaucer's doesn't. Chaucer's are essentially tales told for good morality and general pleasure, as the book's prologue puts it, by a group of people with widely differing views about what good morality might mean. As I mentioned, it's about a group of pilgrims travelling to Canterbury. At the beginning, they're staying at the Tabard Inn, then a real place in Southwark, allowing Chaucer, as narrator, to describe them one by one. At the end of the prologue, their host, a man called Harry Bailey, proposes that they hold a storytelling competition as they travel together. The winner will get a meal paid for by the others. Everyone agrees and lots are drawn to see who should start. The knight wins, which is seen as appropriate since it reflects his preeminent social status. After the knight finishes his tale about courtly love in ancient Greece, it would be conventional for the next socially significant character to take centre stage. Instead, the miller butts in. Although there's an element of ribaldry here, it also reflects a typically English approach to social class, now as then. Everyone loves it when the underdog punctures the taken for granted entitlements of the better off. All of the stories are entertaining, but none are particularly original. Medieval audiences didn't expect or even want you to be original. Apart from the prologue, the best is probably The Wife of Bath's Tale, which says a lot about how women were viewed in medieval times, but also subtly argues against the then common view that women were inferior to men. Most scholars think the Canterbury Tales was unfinished when Chaucer died. In the prologue, the pilgrims are tasked with telling 2 stories on the way there and 2 on the way back, making 120 in all. As it stands, there are only 24, which may not be a bad thing. If it was 5 times as long, far fewer people would probably read it. A lot of its potential readers have been deterred by an insistence from some quarters that it's somehow cheating to read it in modern English. I think that's nonsense, but I'll leave you to decide. In my view, the best contemporary version is Neville Coghill's, published in 1951 and still available in Penguin. In his introduction, Coghill sets out the 4 principles of translation he devised whilst working, all of which seem sensible. Of course, the Canterbury Tales wasn't the only thing Chaucer wrote. His best-known other work is probably Troilus and Cressida, but he also wrote an important scientific treatise for his 10-year-old son. Whether he's the father of English poetry is an open question. It may, however, be the father of a certain congenial, rather sceptical version of modernity.